A very good afternoon. Myself Dr. Naveen Gupta. I am Associate Professor Clinical Hematology in the Department of Medical Oncology at Mahatma Gandhi Medical College and Hospital. Today we shall be discussing about a very important topic in the management of patients with cancer, that is malignancy associated venous thromboembolism. So we will be discussing under the following headings: the epidemiology, etiopathogenesis, predictive markers, prevention, diagnosis and treatment. So the link between cancers and DVT has been known for almost 200 years. It was initially proposed by Jean-Baptiste Boulard and Armand Trojo in 1860s. How big is the problem? Up to 20% of all patients with DVT will have a cancer. Up to 50 patients of all cancer patients may have a DVT, which may be symptomatic or asymptomatic. And there is a 4 to 7 times risk for thrombosis, 3 times risk for recurrence of thrombosis, and a 2 times increased risk for anticoagulation associated bleeding as compared to the general population. 10% patients with idiopathic VT would develop cancer within 2 years. So that is usually an initial marker of the malignancy. And 25% with cancer associated DVT have bilateral DVT. The highest incidence are usually seen with pancreatic cancers, brain tumors, lung cancers. So if the localized disease is there, then pancreas, stomach cancers, uterine cancers, these would have a increased incidence of malignancy, thromboembolism. DVT and pulmonary thromboembolism may precede the diagnosis of cancer or may be present concurrently at the time of diagnosis. It may develop after treatment, post-operatively. It may be a harbinger of relapse, and it may be either superficial, deep or pulmonary thromboembolism. So it can present in various forms, various presentations. Why do cancers cause venous thromboembolism? So any thromboembolism requires the presence of 3 things, which is known as the Virchow's triad: presence of stasis, vessel wall injury and hypercoagulability. So once these 3 things combine, a thrombus is formed. So how does cancer lead to Virchow's triad? Stasis can be there due to either a bedridden patient or compression of the vessels by the tumor. Vessel wall injury can be developed due to invasion by the tumor, use of central venous catheters. Chemotherapy itself can precipitate that, and tumor cytokines may interact with the endothelium and lead to endothelial abrasion and activation. Hypercoagulability is there due to tumor procoagulant tissue factor, microparticles which are released from the malignancy, altered endothelial defense, enhanced selectin and integrin mediated interactions. So once we have this combination, this triad, then a thrombus is formed. So tumor associated microparticles, they may have adhesion molecules, they may have procoagulant molecules like tissue factor and activated factor 7A, and they may have the presence of the underlying tumor marker. Risk factors for cancer. The cancer related risk factors are: one, based on the primary site, as we have seen, pancreatic and GI malignancies have higher risk. Stage of the cancer, advanced stage would be at a higher risk. Histology of the cancer, time after the initial diagnosis, it is maximum in the initial 3 to 6 months. Then treatment related, depending on the treatment that we have given, either chemotherapy, targeted therapy or hormonal therapy. Indwelling catheters can be a reason, and patient related factors, which would include advanced age, racial predisposition, comorbidities, obesity and family history. So can we predict which patients are at a risk for venous thromboembolism? Yes, we can. We have the Corona model. The Corona model proposes a scoring system, and if the patient is having a score of 3 or more, then the patient is at a high risk for developing venous thromboembolism. So this includes site of the cancer, then there are high risk and very high risk sites, pre-chemotherapy platelet counts, hemoglobin, pre-chemotherapy leukocyte counts and BMI. So Corona model very effectively differentiates 4 different groups where we may have varying rates of thromboembolism ranging from 1.5 in the lowest group to 17.7 in the highest group. If we add D-dimer and P-selectin to the Corona score, then we can have a further refinement of the score, and it can lead to 5 different model categories in this model. There is a Vienna VT risk score which uses D-dimer and P-selectin. How can we prevent DVT in cancer patients? Well, prevention, first of all, who needs it? So a hospitalized cancer patient, selected ambulatory patients who are having a high risk features, myeloma patients who are taking IMiDs like lenalidomide, thalidomide or pomalidomide, and patients undergoing cancer surgery. These would be at a very high risk and they would be ideal candidates for preventive anticoagulation. Who don't need it? Ambulatory low risk patients who are otherwise just in the OPD or day case based treatment, they would not require. And if a patient is having any anticoagulation and contraindication to anticoagulation, so these would be uncontrolled hypertension, past history of coagulopathy, past history of IC bleed, recent history of any cardiac procedure. So these would be patients. Which drugs to use? So we have a wide range of drugs including heparins, oral anticoagulants and antiplatelets. So antiplatelets are mostly reserved to patients with myeloma and IMiDs, and anticoagulants, previously low molecular weight heparins were the treatment of choice. Now we have an increasing data in the favor of 10A inhibitors as well. The duration of preventive anticoagulation for hospitalized patient, it must be throughout the entire hospital stay. For myeloma, it is till IMiDs are given, and for surgical patients, pre-operatively and 7 to 10 days post-operatively. How to diagnose VTE? VTE can be predicted based on the Wells criteria. So these are the clinical probability scoring for DVT. We also have a Wells criteria for pulmonary thromboembolism. And along with D-dimer and Wells criteria, we can make a good estimate as to whether the patient may or may not be having either of these conditions. And depending on that, we can go for imaging evaluation. How to treat acute VTE in a cancer patient? So the preferred agents are heparins, either conventional or low molecular weight. Low molecular weight are obviously preferred. Duration of anticoagulation should be at least 6 months, and based on the presence of active disease or ongoing chemotherapy, we may extend the duration of preventive anticoagulation or therapeutic dose anticoagulation for longer duration as well. Thrombocytopenia is an issue in the patients who are undergoing chemotherapy. So how to balance the anticoagulation with thrombocytopenia? So full dose is recommended for platelet counts above 50. If platelets are 20 to 50, we can give half the dose. If they are less than 20, then we have to withhold anticoagulation. For recurring VTE, we must always look for whether there is any drug issues with drug compliance. If the compliance is good, then alternate mechanism drugs should be used. IVC filters, it may be used in short term in patients with cancer, but long term use and data supporting long term use is not there. Some special scenario like myeloproliferative neoplasm, they are associated with abdominal vein thrombosis, and routine antiplatelet prophylaxis with aspirin is given to these patients. Direct oral anticoagulants, so we've got direct thrombin inhibitor dabigatran and 10A inhibitors rivaroxaban, apixaban and edoxaban. Out of the other than edoxaban, all other drugs are available in generic form in our country, and these are amongst the first treatment of choice for other venous thromboembolism, and the new and upcoming data is also supporting the use of these drugs in patients with malignancies. So the take home message, malignancy related VTE is much more common than we think, and we have a combination of patient related, disease related and treatment related factors which may predispose a patient to venous thromboembolism. We have prediction models like the Khorana score and the Vienna score, which will help in identifying patients who would be at a higher risk of thrombosis. Heparins are drug of choice, but there is upcoming role of DOACs, and with these we can provide a good clinical care to these patients. Thank you.